Alright, welcome back. Today we're breaking down Jordan Peele's most recent movie.
Nope.
This is my favorite of his movies, and it's definitely his most ambitious. He wrote the script having no idea how he was going to pull it off. He just knew he wanted to make something big. And they shot it on 65mm IMAX, making it the first horror movie shot on that format. And as usual, there's plenty of subtext layered into it. This movie's about spectacle and how we're obsessed with it. It's also about Hollywood, the way it chews people up, then spits them out, the same way Jean Jacket does. It also exploits people and tries to tame things that aren't meant to be tamed, all of which gets even more complicated when money's involved. So let's dive into it. Nope starts with a Bible verse from the Old Testament. Then the first shot of the entire movie is something people love to debate the meaning of: the shoe that's standing on end at an impossible angle. Now I've heard some people say this is a reference to the saying, waiting for the other shoe to drop, meaning you're anxiously waiting for a seemingly unavoidable negative event that could arrive at any second. And that very much fits here, so it's definitely not wrong. But because they talk about bad miracles later on, I think that's more of what they were going for here. A bad miracle is when something happens that seems impossible, but it comes with tragedy or something terrible. Like an alien sky monster showing up and killing your dad, or a shoe standing on end during a monkey massacre. There's the body of a woman laying nearby with blood spatters that probably came from her head. And then we see a bloody chimp wearing a sweater, jorts, and a birthday hat walking towards her. We're inside of a production studio on the set of Gordy's home, a sitcom about a family who adopted a chimp named Gordy. And you can actually see the entire Gordy's home intro on YouTube. It's hilarious. Quick little backstory: the dad works for NASA, that's where he met Gordy, and brought him home. Gordy sits down and plays with a woman's foot before ripping his hat off and staring directly into the camera, which I'll admit gave me chills the first time I saw it. I was not expecting that shit. Then we cut to Agua Dulce, California, which is a real city and used fairly often for lots of different productions, like the Flintstones or Reno 911. The Haywoods live on an isolated horse farm. Right here in the beginning, we can hear a report about missing hikers near Agua Dulce on the radio. And this is where we meet Otis Jr., or OJ, as he watches his father, Otis Sr., attempt to train one of their horses named Ghost. And OJ is played by the now iconic Daniel Kaluuya, who after Get Out, Jordan Peele was like, hey, let's run that back. Otis Sr. says they need to keep their head out of the clouds on this one, a fun nod to the clouds, but what he's really talking about is their next animal wrangler job. They're hurting for money as the use of real horses in movies is slowly being replaced with CGI. So they've been forced to sell some of their horses to make ends meet. But if they can nail this job, they'll get brought back for the sequel, and then they'll be set. And now pay attention, because OJ doesn't like making eye contact with anybody, even when his dad's talking to him. As he walks off, you can see Otis Sr. notice something in the sky, but doesn't say anything. That same moment, OJ's phone begins to short out. We hear the screams of a woman in the distance, and OJ looks up into the clouds where it came from, which some people have speculated it could be the missing hikers we heard about on the radio, but if they've already been missing long enough to be reported missing, they're already digested. I think it's far more likely Jean Jacket just picked up somebody else nearby, right now. But suddenly, it sounds like bullets are whizzing by. It's the undigestible debris Jean Jacket is spitting out, falling from the sky at insanely high speeds. 1 second we see Otis Sr. in the back looking up just like OJ, but then we pan back 5 seconds later and he's slumped over on his horse. The horse gets hit and begins to walk off. OJ calls to Otis Sr., but he's not responding. He falls from his horse. OJ sprints over to pick him up and take him to the hospital. There it's revealed a nickel fell from the sky and landed directly in Pop's eye. He was looking up and it lodged itself inside his skull, literally straight through the eye socket. The exact opposite of the ADI that was in Tusk's head and hated in the nation. I'm sorry, I couldn't make it 5 minutes without referencing Black Mirror. Now we can't show the gory shot of Pops, but this x-ray makes it pretty clear. He doesn't survive this freak accident, but they do remove the nickel and OJ keeps it. He returns home to find a key sticking out of the horse's leg. How the fuck did a nickel and a key fall from the sky fast enough to cause that kind of damage? Now, we've all heard the theory that dropping a coin off a skyscraper could kill somebody, but that's been debunked by Mythbusters. So rather than say this is a plot hole, I'm gonna say that Jean Jacket spits that stuff out, rather than dropping it, so it would fall at a much higher speed than normal. There we go. Fixed it. Then we get a look inside what could be an old school camera, but we later find out this is the inside of Jean Jacket. We hear screaming and wind whistling by, as well as seeing fog flying past. All hints to the fact we're inside of an alien being, disguised as a spaceship, disguised as a cloud right now. That's Tropic Thunder level acting right there. We slowly zoom into Jean Jacket until we see the first ever motion captured on film, called Horse in Motion, but more on that in a second. 6 months pass and we cut to a production studio, where OJ has one of their horses, Lucky, on set with a green screen and orange tracking points. You can actually see them replacing the background in real time on this monitor. A producer asks OJ if he's ready to give his safety presentation, and OJ quickly tells him not to look the horse in the eyes, before saying he needs 5 more minutes. He's waiting on his sister. She's much better with words. Now this is the second time we've mentioned eye contact, and it's an important theme in this movie. When it comes to animals, direct eye contact is often perceived as a sign of aggression or a threat, like you're trying to assert dominance over them. Large cats, bears, and primates especially will use direct eye contact as an intimidation technique, a lot of the time letting you know you're in their territory and on the verge of finding out if you fuck around. As we see later, the producer brings the lead actress on set, who is shocked to learn that OJ's name is
OJ?
Like because he shares these initials, he's somehow related to OJ Simpson, and it also makes him a white woman killer. Now the producer was expecting the much more assertive, well-spoken Otis Sr., and doesn't like this eye contact avoiding great value version of his dad.
Fuck. Great.
This is where we meet legendary cinematographer Antlers Holst, a clear reference to the deer from Get Out, because there's no human on Earth with the first name Antlers, and he's jaded as fuck. Nothing impresses him anymore. They ask OJ to give his safety presentation so they can get started, and suddenly a loud, bustling set goes completely quiet. All eyes are on him. Luckily, that's when his sister Emerald shows up and saves the day, and Em is played by Keke Palmer, who has been in literally everything, but most recently she really killed it in that new show The Burbs on Peacock. Also, it's worth pointing out, the names Emerald and OJ also refer to the colors green and orange, which is used prominently throughout this movie, as you can already see. Emerald representing green is similar to a green screen, something manufactured, a spectacle that is put together and sold, which we learn is her goal the entire movie, to get the Oprah shot so they can become rich and famous. She's super charismatic and wants to be seen. OJ, on the other hand, represents orange, which often signifies danger and leads to heightened caution and awareness. It signifies survival and is much more grounded in reality. He's the complete opposite of M. He doesn't feel the need to be seen. And this scene captures that perfectly, as OJ is awkward and uncomfortable in this manufactured space, while Emerald thrives, and she comes in like a whirlwind, immediately taking over the situation and begins the safety meeting. She explains the horse in motion clip, and how the guy who performed the experiment, Edward Muybridge, became famous, but nobody has any idea who the jockey was, which is 100% true. They made up the name of the jockey for this movie. And that jockey was Alistair E. Haywood, who was their great-great-great-grandfather. And this part's funny, because M only says 2 greats.
Great-great-grandfather.
She left out the third one, which OJ reminds her of.
Great.
There's another great.
Because she's not actually speaking her own words. She's reciting her dad's speech that he used to give. Alistair Haywood was his great-great-grandfather. M finishes up her speech by reminding everyone she's not only a horse trainer, she can direct, write, produce, act, sing, ride motorcycles, and make a mean grilled cheese. Just don't ask her to be on time. Ah! Side note, that motorcycle riding skill really comes into play later. Emerald walks off and OJ tries to tell the producers Lucky needs a break before they get started, but everyone else says they're ready to go, and he doesn't have the balls to speak up. He calls Em over, but she's busy chatting with Crafty. OJ and Lucky are quickly surrounded, but it's not until a reflective lighting ball, used for VFX, is placed in front of Lucky's eye that he panics and kicks a bag out of the makeup artist's hands. OJ calms Lucky down, and luckily, no one was hurt. But his inability to speak up and take control of the situation results in them getting fired. You can even see the replacement VFX horse being wheeled in behind them as OJ continues avoiding eye contact. They head back to Aqua Dolce and pass a long row of wacky waving inflatable arm-flailing tube men on the side of the road. Family Guy completely ruined these things for me, and probably tons of other people. They arrive at Jupiter's Claim, a small Western-themed amusement park ran by a former child actor, and we get some light foreshadowing with this white horse out front. And cool note about Jupiter's Claim, after they finished filming, they disassembled the set and reconstructed it at Universal Studios Hollywood as part of their backlot tour, and you can see this entire thing in person. They go inside and we hear about their newest show, called the Star Lasso Experience. M photobombs a couple kids taking a photograph in the well, foreshadowing her use of it later, and OJ sells Lucky to the park, telling him he'll be back for him. M catches up, and we learn this is the 10th horse OJ has had to sell since his dad died 6 months ago. But he still plans to get them all back when he can afford to. He tells M to stay outside, calling her a liability for always promoting her side shit instead of this, their main business. But she corrects him, saying this is her side shit, and he's the liability.
Fuck you.
No, fuck you.
And this is where we meet Ricky Jupe Park, owner of Jupiter's Claim and a former child star. And Jupe is played by Steven Yeun, aka Lucille's lover, bat-faced Glenn from The Walking Dead. And he's so excited to know that OJ brought him another horse. And look at those scissors. Do they look familiar to any of us? And that's not the only Easter egg we're going to see from one of his previous movies. OJ says he wants to discuss the process of buying the horses back, but Jupe stumbles over his words and mentions the offer he made to Otis Sr., before changing the subject and turning his focus to M. Now we know why he did this. He can't sell OJ his horses back because he doesn't have them. He's been feeding them to Jean Jacket. So the only other viable option, from Jupe's perspective, is to just buy out the whole damn farm, which would also benefit him for another reason. We see later their farm is positioned above Jupiter's Claim, so if Jupe were to buy out their farm, he'd be closer to Jean Jacket. But OJ isn't interested in that offer, so Jupe quickly gets up to show off more memorabilia instead. They look at a Mad TV cover from the infamous Gordy's Home incident, which we got a brief glimpse of in the beginning. Gordy's Home was a sitcom he starred in after his original hit show Kid Sheriff blew up. He opens a door to a room dedicated to the show, pointing out that he and Gordy were responsible for the first ever exploding fist bump. That's pretty epic. The show was a hit, but then when they were filming an episode for season 2 titled Gordy's Birthday, one of the chimps that played Gordy hit his limit and snapped when a balloon popped on set, kinda similar to what happened to Lucky. It was a bloodbath that lasted 6 minutes and 13 seconds, a number that Jupe remembers and attributes special meaning to, which becomes much more prevalent later on. Jupe says the network tried to bury it, but it was a spectacle.
People are just obsessed.
He says a Dutch couple paid him $50K to spend a night in that room. He took the money and didn't ask any questions, showing us just how easily people are willing to exploit tragedies. This was an insanely traumatic experience in his life, and he's doing everything he can to profit from it. I'm not saying that's wrong, because while money might not solve all your problems, it sure as fuck solves like 99% of them. But damn. OJ says that's one of the reasons they aren't allowed to use live chimps in movies anymore, which is true and crazy enough only happened back in 2020. In fact, you can look up the entire Gordy scene on YouTube without special effects, and it's just as terrifying. The stuntman Teddy Notary, who plays Gordy, did a fucking amazing job. Jupe has an exhibit dedicated to the shoe he saw standing up, as well as Gordy's birthday hat that he was wearing. M asks him what really happened, and we get a look into how Jupe dealt with his traumatic experience. He repressed it. He says SNL did a skit on it and they nailed it. He explains the entire story as it played out on SNL, talking about the actors and how well they did, never once telling the story from his perspective or mentioning what he saw. And he's probably been telling this story for years, so who knows if he even remembers what really happened. And that's when we jump back to the very beginning and realize that we were seeing things from Jupe's point of view hiding under the table. And when Gordy locked eyes with us, it was really him locking eyes with Jupe.
Legendary shit.
M says she'll have to look it up on YouTube, subtly proving the point of the movie and how we're obsessed with any spectacle. That night, M and OJ drink together back at the ranch, and M reminisces on their old horse Jean Jacket, who was supposed to be hers to train when she got old enough, but Pops got hired to work on the Scorpion King and trained Jean Jacket himself before she got a chance to. She'd watch from this window, and Pops would never look up at her. But OJ did. And remember this motion, because it means a lot to both of them. OJ says the Scorpion King was the first job Pops ever took him on, and it sucked because they ended up having to use camels instead of horses anyway. He says Pops changed the industry when he started this ranch, and he's not willing to let that go, which is why he refuses to sell it. He just wants to make enough money to get by and keep his family business in business. In another cool nod to The Shining, Jordan Peele uses title cards in this movie the same way Kubrick did, except here he uses it for names of animals instead of days of the week, and every animal with a title card ends up getting killed in that chapter, except for Lucky, ironically enough. That's when M asks why Ghost is outside in the arena, and OJ goes to check on him.
That's good.
The definition in the sky with OJ and the horse still in perfect focus, this shot is absolutely epic. But that's when Ghost jumps over the fence and takes off down the road. He stops at the gate, and just like I said a second ago, we see that Jupiter's claim is literally right down the hill from them. We can hear Jupe over the loudspeaker, giving the same speech we're gonna hear later on. And just as Jupe finishes his last sentence, he loses power. OJ hears the sound of horses running, followed by a shrieking sound that travels from in front of OJ, over his head, and back towards their ranch. Then the shrieking sound returns, and OJ looks up to see a UFO move quickly between clouds. Back at the house, he asks Em if there's a word for a bad miracle.
Nope.
She asks him what he saw out there. OJ says he's not sure, but it was big, fast, and too quiet to be a plane. The next day they go to Fry's Electronics for security cameras. In case you didn't know, Fry's Electronics was a real electronics store. I actually worked at one in the Bay Area when I was 17 for like 6 months. Every single one of their stores has a different theme. And this UFO-themed one was the real Fry's Electronics in Burbank, which had just shut down. But the store's owner agreed to not only allow them to film inside, he helped them recreate the store so it looked like it never shut down. In fact, Fry's co-owner, Randy Fry, has a cameo later on at the Star Lasso experience. Em explains if they can get good video evidence of a UFO, they could be set for life. They just need to get the money shot. The kind of shot that would get them on a huge show like Oprah.
The Oprah shot.
They go to the register to pay, and this is where they meet Angel, an employee who just got out of a 4-year relationship, and convinces them they're going to need his help setting the cameras up. He explains they have battery backup power, so any outages shouldn't affect them. But OJ says their outages affect everything, even cell phones. Angel laughs and says that's not possible.
Or maybe you're in a UFO hotspot.
And they quickly share a look like, we might be. Angel follows them back to the ranch, and if you look closely at the serial numbers on the van, it's FE1111. FE obviously standing for Fry's Electronics, but 1111 is referring to Jeremiah 11:11, which Jordan Peele also referenced in his movie Us. I'll put it up on the screen so you can read it, but it's basically saying God won't save you from something you've brought upon yourself. Angel gets the cameras set up. They're remote controlled, so they can look in just about any direction, including the sky. That's when Angel realizes what's going on, subtly starting the conversation by saying they aren't called UFOs anymore. They're UAPs, and they changed the name to try and confuse people, hoping they would lose interest.
Exactly.
Cool.
That's when M shows up with a fake horse that looks exactly like the one we saw in front of Jupiter's claim. Speaking of which, that's when Jupe pulls up, but luckily it's not for the horse. He says he wants them to come check out his new live show on Friday. He has a flyer to give them, then he drops it, but thumbs up cause, yeah. Angel finishes setting everything up and says the cameras are pointed to each other so if one of them goes out, the other one's gonna see what happens. He even offers to monitor the feeds for them for free if they want.
Hell no.
That night, OJ's at home and cracks a beer after buying everything he needs to build a poor man's reflective VFX ball, so he can try to get his horses used to it. The horses outside start making noises, so OJ goes to check it out. He finds the lights in the sprinkler system on. He shuts them off and walks away, only for them to turn right back on. He turns around to see something small moving in the shadows, a small gray guy with big eyes. He starts coming towards OJ,
Nope.
who's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. He pulls out his phone to film from around the corner, and when one of these things pops up next to him, he pops him in the face, causing his mask to fall off and reveal it's a kid. They run away and it turns out they're Jupe's kids, messing with him for stealing their horse, and they let Clover out. Now, while they were obviously wearing alien masks, you may not have noticed they were also wearing monkey suits. which were probably used for something Gordy related at Jupiter's claim. You get a better shot of him later on. That's when M shows up, pissed that these kids think that they can mess with him, until OJ reminds her that she started it by stealing the horse. OJ goes out looking for Clover, while M goes back inside to check the cameras, and she gets the shit scared out of her when a praying mantis crawls onto the lens. Her phone rings. It's Angel, still at Fry's, telling her there's a bug on camera A, and camera B just went down. OJ finds Clover outside and begins to walk the horse back, but then it suddenly stops and refuses to move. OJ looks up to see a light in the distance go out. Clover takes off, knocking OJ down, and the winds pick up, surrounding the fake horse. OJ gets up to see the same beam of light shining from the sky that he saw previously, and the string of colorful flags that was attached to the training horse hanging down from the clouds. The UFO appears and OJ takes off running. The power at the house goes out and M loses her connection to Angel. Now remember when I was talking about orange and green in the beginning? This is the perfect example. OJ's just focused on surviving, while M is focused on getting the bug off this camera so she can film it. Meanwhile, this entire time, Clover has been freaking out and running in circles near OJ, who is still watching the UFO in the clouds above him. That's when the winds pick up and Clover suddenly disappears in the dust storm. M looks over just in time to see the UFO take off from the ground as all the power turns back on. And that's when the mantis decides to fly away like the little asshole he is. That night, OJ's laying in bed looking at the nickel that killed his dad. He remembers the time Pops pointed out how territorial Ghost was being, saying some animals just ain't fit to be trained. Somebody should tell Jupe that. The next day, M calls Antlers. That name cracks me up. The next day, M calls Antlers, whose number she got from the call sheet. And if you look closely at what is on his screen, it's all close-ups of eyes, something really important to surviving Jean Jacket. M tries to pitch him on helping them film a documentary, but she's so annoyingly subtle, there's no way you could ever expect him to agree to anything. When he asks what it's about, and her answer is, "What dreams are made of, baby," M's pitch is completely missing the point. Money and fame don't interest him. He already has plenty of both. He's a world-renowned cinematographer. OJ tries to tell her he doesn't care about any of that, and she switches gears. She says he's been described as the man who can make the cinematically impossible happen, and that's what they need, the impossible shot. Cool note here, I said in the beginning when Jordan Peele wrote this, he had no idea how he was going to pull it off. So the first thing he did was track down legendary cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema to help him, just like they did in the movie. And his work with Christopher Nolan alone is ridiculous. Interstellar, Tenet, Oppenheimer, and the upcoming epic The Odyssey. Needless to say, this guy can get the impossible shot. And so can Antlers.
That's impossible.
Antlers tries to warn her. This dream she's chasing of fame and having all eyes on her is the dream you never wake up from. And he hangs up on her.
I don't like him.
They hear a car playing loud music outside, and it's Angel pulling up in the Fry's van. He walks straight past both of them and stares into the sky.
Oh shit, it's real.
He takes them inside and begins scrubbing through the security footage. There's a cloud that doesn't move, and hasn't moved since the cameras have been up. M thinks they got it, but OJ says it's just a cloud. This ain't it.
Ain't Oprah.
Angel's freaking the fuck out. There's really a spaceship in that cloud? But OJ says it doesn't move like a ship. What if it's something else? And this is where we get a flashback to the filming of Gordy's home in 1998. And it's the same audio we heard in the beginning when the credits were rolling.
Nope.
Jupe's on-screen sister brings out a giant box for Gordy and balloons pour out of it. When one of them pops, we hear Gordy freak out and the screen cuts to black as havoc ensues. When the camera cuts back on, we're on the outside of the set, slowly moving around the perimeter. We can hear what's going on, which when done right, can definitely be creepier than seeing what's happening. The best example I have of that is from the movie Weapons, when that girl's asleep in her car in front of the house, and the mom comes out with scissors to cut a lock of her hair off. The camera focuses on the sleeping woman, and we hear this possessed woman opening the back door, and we know she has scissors, but we don't know what she's gonna do with them. It's immediate anxiety. Even right now, my heart rate probably went up 5 BPM. And that's the second time I've referenced Weapons recently. Maybe I need to do a video on that one. We slowly move around to the front of the soundstage. We get a quick glimpse of Gordy's back, and he's beating the woman whose legs we saw in the beginning. We continue around to the front, and let me point out these big Panavision cameras. The tops look oddly similar to alien heads. We finally get to the front and we can see Gordy pounding his fist into the woman's body, who we find out later is Mary Jo, his on-screen sister. It cuts to Jupe hiding under the table. He's watching Mary Jo get beaten as she gurgles and groans in pain. Gordy looks back down at Mary Jo, who we can assume was looking up at him to keep an eye on her attacker. Bad move. And when Gordy noticed, he hops back down, continuing to beat her unconscious and eat part of her face. Jupe's on-screen dad Tom comes in, but Gordy's not fucking around. And when Tom tries to get away, Gordy cuts him off like prime Charles Woodson and beats him to death as Jupe watches. And even though the shoe has been there the entire time, this is when Jupe finally notices it, somehow standing straight up, the exact same way he has it displayed. A bad miracle. He even left the blood for authenticity. And this is the part we saw in the beginning. Gordy comes back in, sits down, hits Mary Jo's foot a few times to see if she still wants to try and look at him, then takes his hat off and notices Jupe under the table. And that eye contact is still chilling. This thing is capable of tearing you apart if it wants to. There's literally nothing you can do to stop it, and now it knows you're there. Cool. Gordy slowly walks to him, covered in the blood of his co-stars, but his demeanor is completely different and more playful. It's like he's trying to tell Jupe, look at all these dumb motherfuckers who thought they were better than me. Wanna play? And the only reason he's not attacking Jupe is because he's looking at him through the tablecloth, so it's not direct eye contact. But Jupe doesn't know that, and he takes it as a sign. Gordy raises his paw to Jupe, going in for their signature fist bump with blood dripping from it. Jupe raises his fist, and just before they touch, Gordy gets his brains blown out by the police. Now let's talk about this scene. Were you one of the people annoyed with the way it was shot and how the camera kept cutting away before it got to the good part? Well, that's kind of the point of the movie. He purposely didn't show us the spectacle we were totally expecting to see. Now let me apologize ahead of time for another Black Mirror reference, but I promise it'll be quick. This is very similar to the ending of Hated in the Nation. Someone in the comments on that video pointed out that we end the episode wanting to see that guy get killed, which it heavily implies happens, but it doesn't show it to us. And I feel like that was done to make us reflect on ourselves for wanting to see it. We want this guy to be punished for killing people who wished death on other people, and here we are at the end wishing death on him. It's quite ironic. Back at the ranch, Angel is tarping up the cameras, and OJ finds Jupe's flyer stuck in a pile of horse shit. How very fitting. He looks at it for a second and puts the pieces together, figuring out that Jupe has been feeding his horses to the UFO. He's got to go save Lucky. The Star Lasso Experience show is just starting, and here we get the cameo of Randy Fry. Jupe gives a shout out to Mary Jo, his Gordy's home co-star who was brutally beaten and disfigured, but still somehow survived, and this is clearly a reference to Charlotte Nash, a woman who was attacked and horribly disfigured by a chimp in 2009. And ironically, she made her first public appearance on Oprah, also wearing a veil over her face. Jupe turns around and we finally get a good look at his ridiculous suit. It's literally a UFO on the back with beams of light shining down.
You're chosen.
He starts off by saying, what if I told you in about an hour, you'll leave here different? And guess what? If you pause the movie right now, there's about an hour left. An hour and 4 minutes including credits if you want to get precise. That's pretty dope. He says for the last 6 months, every Friday, his family has bore witness to a spectacle, and today, they're all going to witness it as well. He tells the story about the first time it happened. He was wrangling a horse that ran off when a flying saucer appeared and took the horse. And that's when he reveals he has a horse hidden under the curtain. It's Lucky. And to top it off, the flying saucer comes at exactly 6:13 every week. The same amount of time that Gordy was attacking people on set, and the reason Jupe feels like he's been chosen. But he doesn't know it was only because of the tablecloth. So now because he's been feeding this flying saucer horses every week at 6:13, he thinks he's been chosen by them too.
I believe they trust me.
Don't those alien heads look exactly like the Panavision cameras from Gordy's home? Off in the far distance, we get a cool shot from Jean Jacket's perspective. It makes a deep roaring noise that frightens the crowd. But Jupe insists they stay seated. If he wants to start early, they can start early. Jupe opens up Lucky's pen, but he doesn't budge. Suddenly the intercom gets scratchy and all the electricity shuts off. It goes completely silent and it's eerie as fuck. Everybody looks up and we see how badly Gordy destroyed Mary Jo's face. Also, she's wearing a shirt of what she looked like as a kid before she got attacked. But just like Jupe, she's trying to capitalize off it and she wants people to know who she is. Jupe stares into the sky as Jean Jacket drops down, causing a dust storm. The screen goes black and then we're inside of Jean Jacket and we can see people getting sucked up as they scream. Then we cut to the inside of its digestive tract, which is creepy as fuck. It's super claustrophobic and these people can't do anything about what's happening to them. The first woman in eventually comes to what I think is a partially digested horse, but I can't totally tell. And the way this was done is super cool. They stuffed people in this thing and ran a camera along the side of it so it appeared as if they were moving. OJ arrives at a completely empty Jupiter's claim. The only living thing is a pig that somehow got stuck on the roof of the sheriff's office. Want to know why the pig was the only thing that survived? They're physically incapable of looking up. So while everyone else was looking up and getting sucked up by Jean Jacket, the pig was just chilling and got blown onto the roof. OJ heads out yonder to where the show was. All the seats are completely empty. Everybody's gone. But somehow Lucky is still there. He survived because of his stubbornness and refusal to follow Jupe's orders. He didn't leave the pen. OJ calls to Lucky, but he won't move. Jean Jacket is flying around overhead, so he's scared to go out into the open. You can still hear people screaming inside of it. Then in a terrifying shot, Jean Jacket swoops down directly at the two of them attempting to suck them up. But OJ just slams off the bleachers overhead, getting knocked unconscious. He wakes up hours later. The sun's down and it's pouring rain. He looks over to see Lucky, still there, still waiting for him to wake up, loyal as fuck. Back at the ranch, Angel leaves and says he'll be back in the morning to tear the tarps off. He gets into his car and the song Sunglasses at Night comes on. The version of this song I prefer is called Stunna-Glasses at Night by the Federation. If you know, you know. OJ loads Lucky into his trailer and calls M, who's at home watching the video she has of Otis Sr.'s speech we heard her repeating earlier, and he tells her it's not a ship. Angel's van suddenly loses power and his music stops playing. He initially thinks it's mechanical and doesn't put two and two together. But then he realizes it. OJ tells M it ate them all. But the phone cuts out and M loses all power inside the house. Angel runs back inside, grabs a big knife and hides under the kitchen table. Very similar to Jupe hiding from Gordy. M can hear people screaming, and it's coming from directly above them. And those people must have been screaming for hours at this point. I'm claustrophobic as fuck, so that's like my nightmare. And fun fact, I didn't even know I was claustrophobic until 10 years ago when I was in the fire academy. I got completely blindsided by it. Fucking terrifying. If you're interested in what I'm talking about, check out this video and let me know how it makes you feel in the comments. The people screaming and Jean Jacket roaring abruptly stops. And then from within Jean Jacket, we hear a wet squishing sound. Dinner's been digested. They hear rumbling overhead and debris starts falling to the ground. Keys, coins, all kinds of trash from Jupiter's claim and the people. Suddenly blood starts dripping down outside the window. It's pouring out from the bottom of Jean Jacket onto their house. OJ's truck dies just as he gets close, but then Jean Jacket moves from the house to OJ and the rain stops when it gets above him. He cracks the door open just enough to peek out, and it is in fact directly above him.
Nope.
Jean Jacket continues making crazy noises, and then spits out the fake horse so it falls directly through OJ's windshield, covered in blood. OJ falls asleep waiting for Jean Jacket to leave, and wakes up to the music in his car turning back on. Now let's talk about what just happened. The way Jean Jacket poured blood directly onto that house, it was almost as if it was marking its territory. The way animals sometimes pee to leave their scent. Then it spit that fake horse out directly into OJ's truck as revenge for them tricking it into eating it. Apparently Jean Jacket holds grudges. OJ starts his truck, and the only two flags we can see from here are green and orange. How convenient. He pulls up to the house and exits his truck when he sees the lights are still on and hears Angel's music playing from the van. He goes over to the van and opens the door. Em and Angel come running out of the house, only for the music to stop as Jean Jacket appears above them. OJ thinks back to telling the producer not to look in Lucky's eyes and realizes that could be the trick. What if Jean Jacket takes eye contact as a perceived threat? So he immediately looks down. Jean Jacket flies by overhead, the music comes back on, and the three of them take off. going to hide out at Angel's apartment. Back at home, our boy Antlers is watching a video of a snake killing a tiger, studying predators, while listening to a news report about the 40 missing people in Agua Dulce. OJ speaks up about his theory. He thinks it only eats you if you look it in the eye. But they don't want to talk about that shit. They want to ignore the problem. The next day they return to the ranch and find Antlers waiting for them in front of their blood-covered house. He's already spotted the cloud and he's staring directly at it. He asks how they get it to come out, and OJ says they just gotta ring the dinner bell. OJ explains Jupe is the reason it settled down here.
He got caught up trying to tame a predator.
It doesn't work like that.
Ask Siegfried and Roy.
Siegfried and Roy being two Las Vegas magicians who used white tigers in their act, only eventually to get attacked. That's when OJ names it Jean Jacket. After their old horse, M never got a chance to train. OJ says he can draw it out, and Antlers will be posted on a nearby ridge filming. He brought a special camera that he made himself, hand-cranked, so it doesn't rely on any kind of electricity. It's literally the only camera capable of capturing something like this.
Let's go, boy!
Now they get to go on a little stealing spree. Angel steals cables and electronics from Fry's, M steals all the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men from the RV lot, and then Angel also steals all the car batteries from the dead people's cars at Jupiter's claim, so he can use them to power the tube men. OJ says this thing is like any other predator. You don't provoke it unless you want a response. Also, check out this dope transition I found while I was editing. At dinner that night, Antlers sings the song Flying Purple People Eater, a song about a monster that eats people. And when he says the line, "I wouldn't eat you 'cause you're too tough," the camera stays on OJ, which I think is a hint at him surviving in the end by being too tough to eat, but I'll dive into that later. Also, check out this dope transition I found while I was editing. The next day they're getting ready to go. OJ puts on his orange Scorpion King hoodie and uses a green eye cover on Lucky. The hoodie's important here because working on the Scorpion King was his father's proudest moment, and he's about to create his own proudest moment wearing it. Angel sets up a digital camera on the ridge next to Antlers. Now because it's daytime, it's going to be harder to tell when Jean Jacket shows up, without lights going out. So instead, they use loud music and all the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men they stole to tell them when it gets close. And if you look closely, when M leaves the window, what's that on the wall behind her in the shadows? The deer head from Get Out. Same type of situation too. M is no longer the helpless victim. She goes outside to give OJ the signal, and he takes off on Lucky while she goes to watch the cameras. They're all in their places, just waiting for Jean Jacket to make its move.
Who's this asshole?
Suddenly a TMZ reporter on a motorcycle shows up. And fun note here, the character's name is Ryder Muybridge, the same last name as the guy who filmed Horse in Motion. He's got 2 cameras on him, and he's here to steal the story for himself. M confronts him and he turns the cameras on her, asking what happened to all the people at Jupiter's claim.
Don't you want to be on TV?
She doesn't answer, and he takes off down the road towards OJ. The tube men start going down, and they know Jean Jacket is approaching. The TMZ reporter is riding an electric motorcycle, which doesn't agree with Jean Jacket's no electronics policy and sends him over the handlebars. Antler's camera runs out of film, so Angel rushes to change reels. OJ goes to check on the downed biker, but all he's worried about is his camera and why OJ isn't filming any of this. He tells OJ to make a name for himself, but that's when Jean Jacket shows up.
My bad, man.
OJ leaves the guy on the ground, still screaming for his camera, and Jean Jacket swoops down, taking him immediately. With his helmet, he looked just like that VFX reflector that scared Lucky in the beginning, but this time, it provoked Jean Jacket instead. Angel and Antlers get the camera rolling just as Jean Jacket disappears back into the clouds, but Antlers saw it. He knows it's real now. OJ can hear the guy screaming inside of Jean Jacket and immediately looks down as it passes overhead. It stops and sucks up one of the tube men.
Are you getting this?
OJ puts his hood on and takes off. Now, if you're wondering why he has those reflectors on the back of his hood like I was, this is what I came up with. They're placed where eyes would be. Hopefully that makes sense. OJ is flying down the road, tube men dropping beside him as he passes. Jean Jacket swoops down behind him in one of the most epic shots of the movie. This entire sequence is just insane. The digital cameras all shut off, and OJ tosses out a small colorful parachute, attached to the same string of colored flags from the fake horse, and Jean Jacket immediately backs off. He's not fucking with that again. And this right here is so fucking cool looking. The small detail of adding a flesh-like texture to Jean Jacket shows us it really is an animal-type being and not a ship. The way the skin wrinkles from the speed is the kind of attention to detail that really impresses me and makes this movie stand out. OJ jumps off Lucky and hides, watching Jean Jacket take off into the clouds.
Yeah, he didn't like that, did he?
It's over, we got it, y'all.
She asks Antlers if his camera got it, but he doesn't answer. He's staring at the sky and says the light's gonna be magic soon. He picks up a smaller handheld crank camera he designed, and Angel asks him where he's going. Antler tells him it's gonna be alright. We don't deserve the impossible, foreshadowing what he's about to do. Get the most impossible shot ever filmed, and no one will ever get a chance to see it. Well, besides us. We get to see it. He heads up the hill and completely ignores everyone on the radio. He looks towards Jean Jacket's cloud and begins cranking his camera. Angel says fuck it, hops on Antler's big camera and starts cranking. Jean Jacket shows up immediately and comes straight towards him, filming himself being sucked into Jean Jacket, finally completing his cycle and becoming part of the spectacle he spent his entire life filming. But he got the impossible shot and died doing the only thing that gave him any happiness. I get it. It's poetic. However, Angel can't look away, and now Jean Jacket is coming for him. But luckily the wind kicks up a tarp that covers him and knocks him down the hill to safety. I mean, come on. You know our guardian angel ain't going out like that. Now Em is staring, and Jean Jacket notices. She runs inside as it comes straight at her, and it tries to suck her through the roof, which kinda shows how pissed it is. But Em is able to run out, and when you see her get thrown, it's easy to see how a pig ended up on the roof. Angel realizes he fucked up by looking and wraps himself as barbed wire as Jean Jacket shows back up. It tries to suck him up again, but lets him go, because that barbed wire would have shredded its insides, which look pretty delicate. And this is where shit gets really crazy, because now Jean Jacket begins to peacock and change into its true form, which is referred to as a biblical angel form, and is fucking insane looking. It was inspired by several animals, including a sand dollar, cuttlefish, octopus, electric eel, and jellyfish, all of which you can kinda see in it. Jordan Peele collaborated with a Caltech professor to help design it, and it's spectacular. Ha, see what I did there? Jean Jacket's like, there's no way you motherfuckers ain't gonna look at me now. OJ tells M to get on the bike and leave, all while this insane transformation is taking place behind him. But the bike won't start. Jean Jacket's still too close by. OJ hops on Lucky and stares directly at Jean Jacket. M looks away and its mouth disappears from her side of the monster, reappearing on OJ's side, and the mouth looks just like an old school camera. It slowly approaches OJ, who is still staring at it, and I take it back. This might be the most epic shot of the movie. This is fucking insane looking. M screams at OJ to run, but he looks at her and gives her the same eye point motion he did as a kid. She returns it. OJ says fuck it and looks straight up at Jean Jacket, whose mouth is wide open. The way it moves and keeps expanding outwards is so creepy. OJ backs up, but he's still staring directly at it. M's bike finally regains power and she rides off. Luckily, motorcycle riding is one of her 20 skills, because riding a street bike off-road cannot be easy. Jean Jacket follows her to Jupiter's Claim, where she rides the bike through police tape and Akira slides in front of the well.
I got to do it, man.
Cool note here, Akira, one of Jordan Peele's favorite movies, he was offered a chance to direct it, turned it down, because classics aren't meant to be fucked with. M releases all the anchors holding down the giant inflatable jupe balloon, and it begins to float into the sky. She starts picking up quarters off the ground and cranking the well camera as Jean Jacket follows the balloon into the clouds. If it was insecure enough to be intimidated by tiny humans and horses on the ground, you know this giant thing invading its territory in the sky has it fucking pissed. Jean Jacket tries to intimidate Balloon Jupe with its handlebar streamer mouth, but he ain't blinking or backing down, and it's positioned directly above the well, so M keeps adding quarters and cranking.
Let's go to Oprah.
Just as Jean Jacket eats Balloon Jupe, M snaps her picture. As Jean Jacket flies away, we can see the balloon inside of it like a jellyfish. It transforms back into its sand dollar shape so it can digest it, but the balloon gets stuck and crushing it causes Jean Jacket to explode from the inside out, just like Jaws, which was the inspiration for this scene.
Nobody fucks with Haywood, bitch!
Another cool note, it was balloons popping that pushed Gordy over the edge. So calling back to that and using a balloon to destroy Jean Jacket is a nice touch. The power at the park comes back on, and Nem's picture pops out of the well, but she doesn't even look at it. She's not concerned with the spectacle anymore. News reporters are already showing up, stealing their story anyway, describing what they saw and filming the fragments still falling from the sky. She stands up and looks out yonder. She doesn't believe her eyes. She closes them, takes a deep breath, and looks again. There's OJ, still sitting atop Lucky. And she did, in fact, get the Oprah shot. Fuck, that movie's good. Now, let's start at the end. Did OJ survive? First few times I saw this, I thought no, and Em was just imagining him at the end. And if that's what you believe, I don't blame you. But after this last long watch I just did, I think he survived. And I'll tell you why. First things first. Like I said earlier, orange represents survival. And as soon as the movie ends, the screen cuts to orange. Clearly some reasoning behind that. Also, I think Jean Jacket has to be in its sand dollar shape to digest its food. As soon as it ate that balloon, it switched forms back to do so, and that's what killed it. So if it ate OJ and Lucky, we would have seen them somewhere inside of that jellyfish, just like we did with the balloon after it was eaten. And even if we didn't hear OJ screaming because he ain't scared of shit, we definitely would have heard Lucky shrieking. So that being said, I feel pretty confident OJ survived. Let me know what you think in the comments, or if I changed your mind. If there's anything you think I missed or any theories you have of your own, please feel free to drop them in the comments. My favorite part of the Get Out video I did was all the comments from people pointing out the things that I missed or didn't pick up on. So while I spent an entire day watching and pausing this movie as I wrote this, I'd like to think there's nothing I missed, but I know there is, so let's hear it. Also, this movie was way different from Get Out, where I was able to add some cool deleted scenes and information about alternate endings. But Jordan Peele was much more deliberate with this movie. There weren't really any deleted scenes, just ones that got shortened by a little bit and didn't really add much. The only one that was completely new was a short scene where OJ looked up in the hills and saw a hiker hiking, and then looked back and he was gone. Cool, but unnecessary. And I also think that's who we heard screaming in the very beginning. Also, I'm not kidding. It took me 8 hours to watch this movie while I wrote this. Tell me I'm not dedicated. Also, I'll say it here first. I'm finally starting memberships on the channel. I'm gonna be real with you. I have a full-time job, and all my free time is currently going to this. However, that's not sustainable in the long run. I can't keep up this pace forever, so I'm working as hard as I can now to build this channel as large as I can. Because I swear to God, I'll quit my fucking job the second I can afford to. I'm only asking for $1. And if you can't afford it, there's no pressure to. You're not gonna miss out on anything. However, if you can, and I get enough people to do it, it'll really help me and I'll be able to put out more than just one video a week eventually. And for that $1, you're gonna get early access to videos and input on what I cover in the future. Similar to what I did here. Anyways, now that I got that out of the way, I appreciate each and every one of you for clicking the video and even more for watching till the end. If you made it this far and liked the video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I got a lot more coming in the future. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.